Commander Ji-hoon Kim stood at the observation deck of the orbital station, watching Earth spin slowly below. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from here, almost fragile. He knew better. Nothing about Earth had ever been peaceful, and humanity had never been fragile. His communication device buzzed. Captain Mireille Park's face appeared on the screen, and her expression told him everything he needed to know before she spoke. "They're coming," she said. "The Vrexian fleet has crossed into our sensor range. 300 ships, maybe more." Ji-hoon felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "How long do we have?" 48 hours. Maybe less if they push their engines." He nodded once. "Gather the command staff. Conference room in 30 minutes. The screen went dark. Ji-hoon looked back at Earth, at the clouds swirling over the Pacific Ocean. Somewhere down there, 4 billion people lived their lives. They worked, they loved, they fought over small things. They had no idea that in 2 days an alien empire planned to erase them from existence. But Ji-hoon knew. He had known this day would come ever since humanity joined the Galactic Assembly 30 years ago. The other species had welcomed Earth with false smiles and empty promises. They called humans primitive. They laughed at Earth's technology. They treated humanity like children who had stumbled into a room full of adults. Ji-hoon had watched and listened. He had learned their languages, studied their cultures, analyzed their military tactics, and he had seen the truth that terrified him. They were all predictable. Every single alien species in the assembly fought wars the same way. They had rules, honor codes, traditions. They made war into an art form, something civilized and controlled. Humanity had made war into a science of survival. The conference room was crowded when Ji-hoon arrived. His senior officers sat around the table, their faces showing various degrees of fear and determination. Captain Mireille Park sat to his right, her hands folded calmly on the table. Lieutenant Hyun Lee checked his datapad nervously. Dr. Sora Choi, the chief science advisor, looked pale and sick. "Tell them what we know," Ji-hoon said to Mireille. She stood and activated the holographic display. A 3-dimensional map of the solar system appeared, with a cluster of red dots at the edge. "The Vrexian Empire has sent a war fleet. Our long-range sensors count 297 warships. Their flagship is the Destroyer of Worlds, a dreadnought-class vessel with enough firepower to crack a planet's crust." Someone at the table cursed quietly. "We have 47 ships," Mireille continued. "Most of them are patrol cruisers and defense frigates. Our largest vessel is the Unity, Commander Kim's flagship. So we're outnumbered 6-1, Lieutenant Hyun said, and outgunned by more than that." "Yes," Mireille said simply. Dr. Sora raised her hand like she was still in a classroom. "Surely the Galactic Assembly will help us. We're members. They have to protect us." Ji-hoon shook his head. "I contacted the Assembly 2 hours ago. They said this is an internal matter between Earth and the Vrexian Empire. They won't intervene." "That's insane," Sora said. "We're part of the Assembly. We have rights." "We have the rights they choose to give us," Ji-hoon said. "And right now they've chosen to watch us burn." The room fell silent. Outside the windows, stars glittered coldly in the black of space. "Why?" asked Hyun. "Why are the Vrexians doing this?" "We've done nothing to them." "Because they can," Mireille said. "They're bored. They haven't fought a war in 20 years. They see Earth as an easy target, a way to stay sharp and take our resources at the same time." Ji-hoon walked to the holographic display and studied it. The red dots seemed to pulse like a predator's heartbeat. "They've studied our military," he said. "I've seen their intelligence reports. They know about our weapons, our ships, our tactics. They think they know everything about us, don't they?" Sora asked quietly. Ji-hoon smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "They know what we've shown them. They know about the Mars Rebellion, the Jupiter mining wars, the battles we've fought in space. But they never asked the right questions." "What questions?" Hyun asked. "They never asked what we were like before we reached space. They never asked why a species as young as ours has so much experience with war." Ji-hoon touched the hologram, and images appeared around the Red Fleet. Ancient battles. Medieval warfare. World wars. Nuclear weapons. They looked at our history and saw primitive savages. They didn't see the truth. "What truth?" Mireille asked, though from her expression, Ji-hoon thought she already knew. "That we're survivors," Ji-hoon said. "Every human alive today is descended from winners. Not the strongest or the fastest, but the ones who refuse to die. We've been fighting for survival since we climbed down from the trees. We've fought each other, Fought our planet, fought diseases and disasters and extinction events. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times over, and somehow we're still here. He turned to face his officers. The Vrexians think this will be easy. They think we'll surrender or break when we see their fleet. They're wrong. Commander, Sora said, and her voice shook slightly. I understand you want to sound confident, but look at the numbers. We can't win this fight. You're right, Jihoon said. We can't win the way they expect us to fight. So we won't fight their way. We'll fight our way. And what way is that? Hyun asked. Jihoon's smile grew colder. The human way. We're going to show them what happens when you corner a species that's been perfecting the art of warfare for 10,000 years. The communication system chimed. An incoming transmission broadcast on all frequencies. Jihoon nodded to Mirai, who opened the channel. A face appeared on every screen in the room. It was reptilian, with scales that shimmered like oil and eyes that glowed with a predator's hunger. Admiral Thraknor of the Rexian Empire. Humans of Earth, the alien said, and his voice was like gravel scraping metal. I am Admiral Thraknor, commander of the Imperial Fleet. Your planet has been selected for annexation. You have 48 hours to surrender. Deactivate your weapons, disable your ships, and prepare to submit to Vrexian authority. If you comply, some of you will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire. If you resist, we will turn your world into ash and dust. The alien leaned forward, and his smile showed too many teeth. I have studied your species. You are weak. You are primitive. You have no chance against us. Make the wise choice. Surrender and die slowly. Resist and die quickly. Either way, Earth belongs to the Vrexian Empire now. The transmission ended. The conference room stayed silent for a long moment. Then Hyun spoke, his voice barely a whisper. What do we do? Jihoon walked back to the window and looked at Earth again. He thought about every war in human history. Every desperate last stand, every time someone had told humanity to surrender and humanity had smiled and said no. We do what we've always done, he said. We fight. And we show them that choosing Earth as an easy target was the last mistake the Vrexian Empire will ever make. The Vrexian fleet arrived exactly when promised. Their ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, and they were beautiful in a terrible way. Each vessel was covered in dark metal that seemed to drink in starlight. Weapons bristled from every surface like the spines of a deep-sea creature. On the bridge of the Unity, Commander Jihoon Kim watched the enemy fleet take formation. His crew worked quietly around him, checking systems and preparing weapons. No one spoke unless necessary. They all knew the odds. They're hailing us, Mirai said from her station. Admiral Thraknor wants to speak with you. Of course he does, Jihoon said. He wants to gloat before the killing starts. Open the channel. Make sure it broadcasts to the entire Galactic Assembly. Mirai raised an eyebrow. You want everyone to see this? Everyone needs to see this, Jihoon said. The view screen flickered to life. Admiral Thraknor sat in a throne-like command chair, surrounded by his bridge crew. Behind him, through observation windows, hundreds of Vrexian warships floated in perfect formation. Commander Kim, Thraknor said, and his voice dripped with satisfaction. I see your fleet has gathered to meet us. How quaint, 47 ships against nearly 300. Tell me, do you humans not understand mathematics? Or are you simply stupid? Jihoon kept his face neutral. We understand math perfectly, Admiral. We also understand history. And history teaches us that numbers don't always win battles. Thraknor laughed, a harsh barking sound. History? You mean your primitive history of mud-dwelling savages hitting each other with sticks and stones? I have studied your wars, human. They are laughably crude. Your greatest victories involve throwing rocks and burning things. We fight with antimatter and weapons that bend reality itself. You studied our recent history, Jihoon said calmly. The wars we fought in space over the last 2 centuries. But did you study everything? Did you look at what we were like before we reached the stars? Why would I waste time on ancient barbarism? Thraknor said. Your species spent thousands of years fighting with primitive weapons over tiny pieces of dirt. It's irrelevant to modern warfare. Jihoon glanced at Mirai. She was watching him with an intensity that suggested she knew what he was doing, building a record, making sure everyone in the galaxy heard this conversation. Irrelevant, Jihoon repeated. I see. Tell me, Admiral, how many wars has the Vrexian Empire fought? Thraknor's eyes narrowed. The Empire has conquered 40 star systems. We have fought hundreds of campaigns over 3 centuries. Our military tradition is ancient and glorious. And how many of those wars lasted longer than a year? The alien paused. Wars last as long as necessary. Once we demonstrate our superiority, our enemies surrender. That is how civilized species conduct warfare. Civilized, Jihoon said softly. You keep using that word. I don't think you understand what it means. I understand perfectly, Thraknor snapped. It means having rules, honor, fighting with dignity rather than rolling in the dirt like animals. Your species knows nothing of this. You are barely out of your caves. On Jihoon's personal display, a notification appeared. The Galactic Assembly was watching. All 12 member species had tuned in to the transmission. Some were probably placing bets on how quickly Earth would fall. The general consensus, according to Mireille's intelligence, was less than 6 hours from the first shot. You're right that we're different, Jihoon said, but you've misunderstood why. You think we're weak because we're young. You think we're primitive because our technology isn't as advanced as yours. But you never asked the question that matters. And what question is that? Thraknor asked, his voice thick with contempt. Why are we still here? Jihoon leaned forward in his chair. Think about it, Admiral. Humanity is young compared to your species. We only developed spaceflight 200 years ago. But our civilization has existed for 10,000 years. Our species has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Why did we survive that long when we were so primitive and violent? Luck, Thraknor said. Random chance. No, Jihoon said. Stubbornness. Refusal to die. The ability to adapt and survive no matter what the universe threw at us. We didn't become spacefaring because we were peaceful. We reached the stars because we're survivors. Thraknor waved a clawed hand dismissively. Enough philosophy. I didn't come here to debate. I came to accept your surrender. Will you give it, or must I take it? I have a counteroffer, Jihoon said. Turn your fleet around. Leave our system. Go back to your empire and tell them that Earth is not for taking. The alien admiral stared at him for a long moment, then burst into laughter. His bridge crew joined in, a chorus of harsh, mocking sounds. You're serious, Thraknor finally said. You actually think you can stand against us? With your toy ships and your ancient weapons, you truly are stupid. Maybe, Jihoon admitted, but I want to make sure you understand what you're starting here. You're not invading a peaceful world. You're not attacking a species that will surrender when things get difficult. You're about to fight humans, Admiral, and humans don't know how to quit. Then you'll learn, Thraknor said. I'll teach you. Your planet will burn, your cities will fall, and your people will beg for death before I'm finished. This is what happens to species that don't know their place. Jihoon felt a strange calm settle over him. This was the moment. This was when everything changed. Admiral Thraknor, he said quietly, do you know how many wars humanity has fought? I already told you I don't care about your primitive— Thousands, Jihoon interrupted. Thousands of wars. Some lasted days, some lasted decades, some lasted 100 years. We've fought over religion, resources, territory, pride, and things so stupid we can't even remember why the fighting started. We've developed hundreds of ways to kill each other. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire planet, and we came close to using them more than once. He stood up from his chair. We've perfected the art of warfare, Admiral. While your species fought honorable battles with rules and codes, we fought in mud and blood and fire. We learned how to win when we were outnumbered. We learned how to fight when we had no hope. We learned how to make victory so expensive that even winning felt like losing. And we learned the most important lesson of all. What lesson? Thraknor asked, and for the first time, his voice held a hint of uncertainty. That the only rule in war is survival, Jihoon said. Everything else is negotiable. Lieutenant Hyun's console beeped. Commander, they're powering weapons. Multiple targeting locks on the Unity. Let them lock, Jihoon said. He kept his eyes on Thraknor. Last chance, Admiral. Turn around. You've conquered 40 systems. Be satisfied with that. Don't add Earth to your list. Why? Thraknor asked. Because you'll make me regret it? You and your 47 ships? No, Jihoon said. Because humanity doesn't fight to win. We fight to survive, and we'll do anything. Sacrifice anything, destroy anything to stay alive. Your empire fights for glory and conquest. We fight because the alternative is death. Those are very different motivations, Admiral. Thraknor's smile returned, colder than before. Then you'll die for nothing. Your choice, human. I gave you a chance to surrender. You refused. Everything that happens now is your fault. No, Jihoon said softly. Everything that happens now is yours. He nodded to Mireille, who cut the transmission. The bridge was silent. Outside the viewports, the Vrexian fleet began to move. 300 ships all converging on Earth's defensive line. "Orders, Commander?" Mirai asked. Jihoon sat back down in his chair. He thought about every desperate battle in human history. Every last stand. Every time humanity had been pushed to the edge and refused to fall over. "Signal all ships," he said.
"Prepare for combat."
"And send a message to Earth. Tell them to implement Protocol Fortress. Every defense, every weapon, every trap we've prepared for the last 30 years. Activate all of it. And if we lose?" Dr. Sora asked. She had insisted on being on the bridge, refusing to evacuate with the other civilians. Jihoon looked at her and saw the fear in her eyes. But he also saw determination. She was scared, but she would stay and fight anyway. That was humanity in a nutshell. "If we lose," he said, "then we make sure they remember us. We make sure the Vrexian Empire knows they've been in a fight. And we make sure every other species in the galaxy sees what happens when you push humans too far." The Vrexian fleet opened fire. The first volley of Vrexian fire lit up space like 1,000 dying stars. Energy beams and plasma bolts crossed the void, targeting Earth's defensive fleet. The Unity's shields flared bright blue as impacts hammered against them. "Shields at 80%, Hyun called out. "They're just testing our defenses." "Let them test," Jihoon said. "Mirai, signal the fleet. Execute Plan Guerrilla. All ships scatter on my mark." Mirai's fingers flew across her console. "Fleet acknowledges." "They're ready." On the view screen, the Vrexian fleet advanced in perfect formation. They moved like a single organism, each ship maintaining precise distance from the others. It was beautiful and terrifying. This was a military that had conquered dozens of worlds, and they knew exactly what they were doing. But Jihoon had studied them. He knew their tactics, their strategies, their thinking. The Vrexians fought like everyone else in the galaxy fought. With order, with discipline, with rules. Humanity had learned long ago that rules were optional. "Mark," Jihoon said quietly. Earth's fleet exploded into motion. 47 ships suddenly broke formation and scattered in every direction. Some dove toward the moon. Others fled into the asteroid belt. A few appeared to run deeper into the solar system. On the view screen, Jihoon could see the Vrexian bridge crew reacting with confusion. This wasn't how space battles worked. Fleets met, fought, and one side won. They didn't just run away. "They think we're cowards," Mirai said, watching her tactical display. "Good," Jihoon said. "Let them think that for exactly 30 more seconds." The Unity raced toward the lunar far side, the Vrexian fleet in pursuit. On the dark side of the moon, humanity had built something special over the last 30 years. Something the Galactic Assembly had dismissed as primitive and pointless. Defense platforms. Hundreds of them, hidden in craters and covered with stealth materials. Each one armed with nuclear missiles, railguns, and mining lasers repurposed as weapons. Not advanced technology by alien standards. But humans had learned long ago that you didn't need fancy weapons to kill someone. You just needed the will to use what you had. "Vrexian pursuit fleet entering the kill zone," Hyun said. "Fire everything," Jihoon ordered. The moon's surface erupted. Hundreds of weapons platforms activated simultaneously, targeting the Vrexian ships that had chased the Unity. Missiles streaked through the void. Railgun slugs moving at a fraction of light speed punched through alien shields. Laser beams cut and burned. 3 Vrexian destroyers died in the first 5 seconds. Their shields overloaded, their hulls split open, and they tumbled through space as dead metal. 4 more took critical damage and fell back, trailing atmosphere and debris. "Pursuit fleet breaking off," Mirai reported. "They're retreating to the main fleet." Jihoon allowed himself a small smile. "One down. Signal our ships in the asteroid belt. Springtrap 2. In the asteroid belt, Captain Daeho Kang commanded a small flotilla of mining ships. They looked like civilian vessels, unarmed and helpless. The Vrexians had sent a battle group to destroy them, probably thinking it would be easy target practice. They were wrong. The mining ships didn't run. Instead, they fired their drilling lasers and explosive charges, the same tools they used to break apart asteroids. At close range, those tools could break apart ships too, and more importantly, they shattered the asteroids around them, creating a cloud of debris that moved in every direction at lethal speeds. The Vrexian battle group found itself flying through a storm of rocks moving at thousands of meters per second. Their shields held against energy weapons, but rocks were different. Rocks were stupid and didn't care about advanced technology. Rocks just hit things and broke them. Two Vrexian cruisers collided with debris and took critical damage. Another one tried to dodge and flew straight into the path of a mining ship's drilling laser. The beam cut through its bridge section and the ship went dark. On the Unity's bridge, Jihoon watched his tactical display update. Earth's fleet was scattered across the solar system, but each group was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. Ambush, strike, and fade away. Never fight fair, never give the enemy a clean target, Commander, Dr. Sora said from her station. The Galactic Assembly is broadcasting commentary on the battle. Should I put it on speaker? Why not, Jihoon said. Let's hear what they think. A voice filled the bridge, translated from an alien language. Unprecedented tactics from the human fleet. Rather than engaging in traditional battle formation, they appear to be using hit-and-run strategies. The Vrexian fleet is struggling to respond to this chaotic approach. Current casualties are approximately 10 Vrexian ships destroyed or disabled, versus only 2 human vessels lost. Another voice chimed in. This is highly unusual. Most species surrender when faced with such overwhelming odds. The humans seem to be fighting with desperation rather than strategy. Or maybe, a third voice said thoughtfully, they're fighting with a different kind of strategy, one we've never seen before. Jihoon listened and felt a grim satisfaction. They were starting to understand. The galaxy was beginning to realize that humanity didn't play by their rules. Incoming transmission, Mirai said. It's Thraknor. He sounds angry. Put him on. The Vrexian admiral's face appeared and his expression was twisted with rage. What kind of cowardice is this? Stand and fight like warriors, not like scurrying insects. We are fighting, Jihoon said calmly. Just not the way you expected. Is that against your rules, Admiral? This is not war. This is chaos. No, Jihoon said. This is human war. You wanted to study our military history? Let me give you a lesson. For 10,000 years, we fought wars where losing meant extinction. We learned to fight dirty, to ambush, to retreat and strike again. We learned that honor doesn't matter if you're dead. We learned that the only thing that matters is survival. He leaned forward in his chair, his voice growing harder. You fight wars for glory and conquest. We fight wars because we have to. There's a difference, Admiral, and you're about to learn it. Before Thraknor could respond, Jihoon cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. Mirai, signal all ships. Phase 2. We make them chase us deeper into the solar system. Every minute we delay is another minute for Earth to prepare. They're going to catch some of our ships, Mirai said. Some of our people are going to die. I know, Jihoon said quietly. But that's war, and we're better at it than they are. The battle continued for hours. Earth's ships led the Vrexians on a chase through the solar system, fighting from ambush and then running before the enemy could respond with full force. The Vrexian fleet was stronger and had better weapons, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules. Lieutenant Hyun monitored the tactical displays, watching friendly ships wink out one by one as the Vrexians caught and destroyed them. Each loss hurt, but the strategy was working. The Vrexian fleet was spreading out, trying to hunt down every human ship. They were getting angry, getting careless. Commander, Hyun said, we've lost 15 ships. We're down to 32. And they've lost how many? Jihoon asked. 23 destroyed, 17 more badly damaged. They're down to about 250 effective ships. Dr. Sora looked up from her console, her face pale. We're losing people, Commander. Good people. How long can we keep this up? Jihoon looked at her and his expression softened slightly. As long as we have to. Every ship we lose hurts, but every minute we survive is a victory they didn't expect. They thought this would be over in 6 hours. It's been 8 hours and we're still fighting. Is that enough? Sora asked. Just surviving? Yes, Jihoon said simply. Because survival is what humans do best, and every species in the galaxy is watching. They're seeing that the Vrexian Empire isn't invincible. They're seeing that resistance is possible. A new alarm sounded. Mirai checked her console and cursed softly. Thraknor is bringing the main fleet toward Earth. He's done chasing our scattered ships. He's going to attack the planet directly. Jihoon nodded slowly. He had expected this. Thraknor was smart enough to realize that he was being played. The Vrexian admiral wanted to end this, and the fastest way to do that was to destroy Earth itself. Recall all remaining ships, Jihoon ordered. We make our stand in Earth orbit. No more running. No more ambushes. Now we show them what humans fight like when we're defending our home. Mirai hesitated. Commander, if we gather in one place, they can hit us with their full strength. we'll be wiped out. Maybe, Jihoon agreed. But they'll have to come through us to reach Earth, and I promise you we'll make them pay for every meter of space. He stood up and looked at his crew. They were tired, scared, and they knew the odds. But not one of them suggested surrender. Not one of them suggested running. They were human, and humans didn't quit. Send a message to Earth, Jihoon said. Tell them we're coming home. Tell them to get ready, and tell them that no matter what happens next, they should be proud. We've already done the impossible. We've survived 8 hours against an enemy that thought we'd break in one. He turned to the view screen, where Earth floated like a blue jewel against the black of space. Now let's show them what we can do in the next 8 hours. The Unity turned toward home, and behind it the remainder of Earth's fleet followed. They were battered and outnumbered, but they were still fighting, and in a voice that carried across every communication channel. Earth orbit was about to become a graveyard. The Unity led what remained of humanity's fleet into position around their homeworld. 32 ships against more than 200. The math was simple and brutal. They were going to lose. But Jihoon hadn't brought his fleet here to win. He'd brought them here to buy time. All ships in position, Mirai reported. Earth's orbital defenses are armed and ready. Ground-based weapons are locked on target. Every satellite with a weapon system is online. Jihoon studied his tactical display. The Vrexian fleet was approaching in a massive formation, a wall of metal and firepower that blotted out the stars. Thraknor had stopped playing games. He was bringing everything to end this fight once and for all. Hyun, status on our surprise packages? Jihoon asked. Lieutenant Hyun checked his console and grinned despite the situation. All active and waiting. The Vrexians have no idea. Dr. Sora spoke up from her station, her voice shaking slightly. Commander, I've been analyzing their approach vector. If we engage them head-on, we'll last maybe 15 minutes. Then they'll break through and attack Earth directly. I know, Jihoon said. That's why we're not engaging them head-on. He opened a channel to all human ships. This is Commander Kim. You all know the plan. You all know what we're fighting for. Not glory, not honor. For survival. For every person on Earth who's counting on us. For every human who will ever be born. They think we're beaten. Let's prove them wrong one more time. On the view screen, the Vrexian fleet grew larger. Jihoon could make out individual ships now. Could see their weapons charging with energy that would tear his fleet apart. They're hailing us, Mirai said. Thraknor wants to talk. Of course he does. He wants to gloat before he kills us. Put him on. Admiral Thraknor appeared on screen and his expression was triumphant. Commander Kim, you've fought well, I'll admit that. Better than I expected. But this ends now. Surrender your fleet and I'll let Earth live. Not as a free world, but as a slave colony. It's better than extinction. Jihoon met the alien's eyes and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Admiral, let me tell you about a battle in human history.
It happened thousands of years ago in a place called Thermopylae.
300 soldiers held a mountain pass against an army of thousands. They knew they would die. They knew they couldn't win. But they fought anyway because every hour they held was an hour their people had to prepare. They all died, but they became legends. Another primitive story, Thraknor said dismissively. What does that have to do with now? Everything, Jihoon said. Because we're not here to win this fight, Admiral. We're here to make you pay for every meter of space. We're here to buy time. And we're here to show you that humanity doesn't surrender just because the odds are bad. He leaned back in his chair. So here's my answer to your offer. Come and take it. Thraknor's expression darkened. Fool, you've just killed your entire species. Maybe, Jihoon agreed. But we'll die on our feet fighting. Can you say the same? He cut the transmission. All ships, Jihoon said over the fleet channel. Open fire. 32 ships unleashed everything they had. Missiles streaked across the void. Energy weapons blazed. Railgun slugs flew at incredible speeds. The Vrexian shields flared and held, but the sheer volume of fire made them stagger. The Vrexian fleet responded with overwhelming force. The space between Earth and the alien fleet became a storm of energy and explosions. Ships on both sides took damage, shields failing, hulls cracking open. The Unity shook as Vrexian fire hammered its shields. Shields at 40%, Hyun called out. We can't take much more of this. We don't need to, Jihoon said. Mirai, signal the defense platforms. Execute Protocol Swarm. Around Earth, thousands of satellites suddenly activated. Not just military satellites, but everything. Communication satellites, weather satellites, old satellites that had been declared junk decades ago. All of them had been secretly modified over the last 30 years. Each one carried explosives. Each one could move. And each one was now piloting itself toward the Vrexian fleet on a collision course. Suicide drones, Dr. Sora whispered. We turned our orbital infrastructure into weapons. We turned everything into weapons, Ji-hoon said. That's what humans do. We adapt, we improvise. We use whatever we have. The Vrexian fleet tried to shoot down the incoming satellites, but there were too many. Thousands of small objects, all moving in erratic patterns, all aimed at alien ships. The Vrexians destroyed hundreds of them, but hundreds more got through. Satellites crashed into Vrexian shields and exploded. The explosions weren't powerful enough to destroy ships on their own, but they overwhelmed the shields. And once the shields were down, Earth's defense platforms had clear shots. Massive railguns on the moon and on orbital stations opened fire. Tungsten rods the size of telephone poles punched through Vrexian hulls. Nuclear-tipped missiles, weapons that the Galactic Assembly had told humanity to dismantle, struck home and detonated. The Vrexian formation broke apart as ships tried to avoid the chaos. Thraknor's voice screamed over all channels, trying to restore order. Now, Ji-hoon shouted, all ships target their command vessel. Everything we have at the Destroyer of Worlds. The human fleet, battered and bleeding, focused all remaining firepower on Thraknor's flagship. The massive dreadnought's shields held against the assault, but only barely. Cracks appeared in the energy barrier. Warning lights flashed on the alien bridge. But the Vrexians were adapting too. They were professional soldiers, and they recovered from their shock quickly. The alien fleet reformed and pressed forward, their superior numbers starting to tell. One by one, human ships died. The frigate Swift Current took a direct hit to its reactor and vanished in a flash of light. The cruiser Mountain Stand held position too long and was overwhelmed by enemy fire. The destroyer Patient Hunter made a suicide run at a Vrexian battleship and took them both out in a massive explosion. We're down to 18 ships, Miri said, her voice steady despite the desperation of their situation. Hull breaches on multiple decks. We can't keep this up much longer. Ji-hoon watched his tactical display as another friendly icon disappeared. 19 people on that ship. 19 humans who would never go home. But they had bought time. Nearly 2 hours since the battle began. 2 hours Earth had used to prepare, to evacuate cities, to ready final defenses. How many Vrexian ships have we destroyed? Ji-hoon asked. Hyun checked his readouts. 47 confirmed destroyed. Another 33 damaged badly enough that they've withdrawn from the fight. Ji-hoon felt a fierce pride. They were losing, but they were making the enemy pay. Every Vrexian ship destroyed was proof that humanity could fight. Every minute they survived was a victory no one had expected. Commander, Dr. Sora said suddenly, I'm picking up something strange. Energy readings from Earth's surface. Multiple locations. It's like, she stopped, her eyes widening. Like what? Ji-hoon demanded. Like they're powering up weapons. Hundreds of them. Thousands maybe. But not military weapons. These readings are coming from power plants, factories, mines. What did Earth do? Ji-hoon smiled. They improvised. Just like I told them to. On Earth's surface, every industrial facility with enough power was converting into a weapon. Particle accelerators used for scientific research were redirected as beam weapons. Fusion reactors were being overloaded to create massive energy pulses. Deep mining lasers were aimed at the sky. None of them were designed as weapons. None of them were particularly accurate. But there were thousands of them, and they were all firing at the same target, the Vrexian fleet. The alien ships found themselves under bombardment from the planet itself. Energy beams, particle streams, and electromagnetic pulses rose from Earth's surface like the anger of the planet made manifest. They're using everything, Mire said, awe in her voice. Every piece of technology that can hurt someone, they've turned into a weapon. That's humanity, Ji-hoon said. Give us a tool, and we'll find a way to kill with it. The Vrexian fleet was in chaos now. They had expected a quick victory, a demonstration of their superiority. Instead, they were being bled by a species that refused to die. Every tactic, every weapon, every desperate gambit was costing them ships and lives, but they were still winning. The math hadn't changed. They had more ships, better weapons, and eventually they would break through. Thraknor knew it too. His voice came over all channels, broadcast to everyone. Enough. I'm done playing games with you primitives. I'm going to use the planet killer weapon. In 60 seconds, Earth will be nothing but radioactive dust. This is your last chance, Commander Kim. Surrender now or watch your world die. The bridge went silent. Everyone looked at Ji-hoon. He stood up slowly, every muscle aching from hours of combat. He looked at his crew. At Mirai, who had never lost her composure even in the worst moments. At Hyun, who had kept their weapons firing against impossible odds. At Sora, who had stayed on the bridge even though she had every right to flee. At all the humans on his ship, on the surviving fleet, on Earth below. 4 billion people who had trusted him to protect them. Ji-hoon opened a channel, not just to Thraknor but to everyone. Every ship, every station, every screen on Earth and across the Galactic Assembly. Admiral Thraknor, he said, his voice calm and cold, before you fire that weapon. The galaxy went silent. Every species in the Galactic Assembly stopped what they were doing and watched. 12 civilizations, thousands of worlds, billions of beings all tuned to the same broadcast. They had been watching the battle for hours, fascinated by humanity's desperate resistance. Now they waited to see what this human commander would say before his world died. Commander Ji-hoon Kim stood on the bridge of the Unity, battered and bloodied, but unbroken. Behind him, Earth spun slowly, a blue jewel that the Vrexian Empire wanted to destroy. Around him, the last 17 ships of humanity's fleet held position, ready to die defending their home. You can destroy Earth, Ji-hoon said, his voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy. Your planet-killer weapon will work. In 60 seconds, you can turn our world into dust. 4 billion humans will die. Our cities will burn. Our history will end. You'll win. He paused, letting that sink in. But here's what happens after you win, Admiral Thraknor. Here's what happens to your empire. On his console, Ji-hoon pressed a single button. Across the galaxy, data packages activated. Thousands of them, hidden in communication networks, stored on servers, embedded in every system humanity had touched over the last 30 years. For the past 3 decades, Ji-hoon continued, humanity has been preparing for this day. Not just building weapons and ships. We've been compiling information, every tactic we ever used, every strategy we ever developed, every lesson we learned from 10,000 years of warfare. We've been making a manual, Admiral, a complete guide to fighting like humans. On screens across the Galactic Assembly, files began to open. Military tactics, guerrilla warfare strategies, instructions on asymmetric combat, guides on turning civilian technology into weapons, the complete and bloody history of human conflict. Right now, Ji-hoon said, that manual is being transmitted to every corner of the galaxy, to every species, to every world, to everyone who's ever been conquered or oppressed or told to surrender. We're giving them our gift, Admiral. We're teaching them how to resist. Thraknor's face appeared on the view screen, twisted with rage. You're bluffing! You're trying to— I'm not bluffing, Ji-hoon interrupted calmly. Check your intelligence networks. Check your conquered worlds. Check everywhere. The data is already spreading. You can't stop it now. On the bridge, Mirai pulled up confirmation reports. It's true, Admiral. We're receiving signals from across the galaxy. The files are being downloaded and shared. It's spreading exponentially. Ambassador Sun Mi-yoon's face appeared on a secondary screen, broadcasting from Earth's diplomatic station. Commander Kim is correct. I've been in contact with representatives from 8 different species. They've all received the information. Some of them are already studying it. She looked directly at Thraknor. Your empire has 40 conquered systems, Admiral. Imagine what happens when all those subjugated species learn how to fight like humans. When they learn about guerrilla warfare, about sabotage, about making every occupation so costly that it's not worth maintaining. How long will your empire last then? The Vrexian admiral stared at them, and for the first time Ji-hoon saw fear in his eyes. You wouldn't, Thraknor said. You can't, this is madness. You're teaching the entire galaxy how to wage total war. Yes, Ji-hoon said simply, because that's what you forced us to do. You came to our world thinking we were weak. You thought you could take Earth easily. You never considered that even if you won, we might make that victory meaningless. He stepped closer to the camera. This is humanity's final lesson, Admiral. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure that even if we lose, our enemies lose too. We call it mutually assured destruction. It's an old human concept. If you kill us, you destroy yourself. Across the galaxy, reactions erupted. The Galactic Assembly exploded into heated debate. Some species were horrified at humanity's actions. Others were fascinated. And several, The ones who had been quietly suffering under the rule of more powerful empires were very interested indeed. On Jihoon's tactical display, new signals appeared. Ships were approaching from across the system. Not Vrexian ships, ships from other species, other civilizations. They had been watching, waiting to see what happened. Now they were moving to intervene. Admiral Thraknor, a new voice said over the communications channel. It was the representative of the Corvin Collective, one of the most powerful species in the assembly. We are ordering you to stand down. Do not fire the planet-killer weapon. They have violated every principle of civilized warfare, Thraknor protested. They must be punished. They have shown us something we needed to see, the Corvin said. That conquest has consequences. That occupying weaker species creates risks. The humans have made war too dangerous for empires like yours. If you destroy Earth, you prove their point. You show every oppressed world that resistance is necessary because mercy is impossible. Other voices joined in. Species that had been silent now spoke up. The galaxy was waking up to a new reality. The Vrexian Empire must withdraw, another ambassador said. Earth has earned its sovereignty through blood and courage. Let them be. Thraknor looked around his bridge and Jihoon could see the calculation in his eyes. The Vrexian admiral was a warrior, but he was also smart. He understood that even if he destroyed Earth, his empire would fall. The manual humanity had released would tear it apart from within. This is not over, Thraknor said finally. Earth may survive today, but you have made an enemy of the Vrexian Empire forever. We've made an enemy who can't afford to fight us, Jihoon corrected. Your choice is simple, Admiral. Withdraw now and keep your empire, or destroy us and watch your empire collapse within a decade. What will it be? The silence stretched. On Earth, billions of people held their breath. In the human fleet, exhausted crews waited for the end. One way or another, then slowly, the Vrexian fleet began to power down its weapons. We're withdrawing, Thraknor said, his voice heavy with defeat. But remember this, humans. You may have won today, but you've changed the galaxy forever. You've taught every species how to fight total war. You've made the universe a more dangerous place. No, Jihoon said quietly. We've made it a more honest place. For too long, powerful species conquered weaker ones because they could. Now the weak can fight back. Now every empire has to consider whether conquest is worth the cost. We didn't make the universe dangerous, Admiral. We made it fair. The Vrexian fleet turned and began to leave the solar system. 300 ships had arrived. Less than 200 were leaving. They had come expecting an easy victory and found instead the hardest fight of their existence. On the Unity's bridge, the crew erupted in cheers. Humans were hugging, crying, laughing with relief and joy. They had survived. Against all odds, humanity had survived. Jihoon watched Earth on the view screen and felt exhaustion wash over him. They had lost 30 ships, nearly 3,000 people. The price of survival had been high, but they had survived. Commander, Mirai said, coming to stand beside him. The Galactic Assembly is requesting a formal meeting. They want to discuss Earth's status in the Assembly. Several species are calling for us to be granted full military protections and rights. Of course they are, Jihoon said with a tired smile. Now that they've seen we can fight back, they want us as allies instead of victims. What do we do? Mirai asked. Jihoon looked at his crew, at the brave humans who had stood with him against impossible odds. Then he looked at Earth, the world that had created them all, the planet that had taught humanity to survive. We accept, he said, but on our terms. We join the galaxy as equals, not as subordinates, and we make sure every other species understands. Humanity is not a species to be conquered. We're a species to be respected. Dr. Sora appeared beside them, tears streaming down her face. We did it. We actually did it. I didn't think we could. That's because you're a scientist, Jihoon said gently. Scientists look at the odds and calculate probabilities. But humans aren't just about probability. We're about stubbornness and refusal to quit, and the desperate will to survive. Those things don't show up in calculations. He turned to address his entire crew. Everyone listen. What we did today was terrible and necessary. We fought a war we couldn't win, and we survived by making victory too expensive for our enemy. We showed the galaxy who we are. Not just warriors, but survivors. Not just fighters, but humans who refuse to bow down to anyone. He paused, searching for the right words. We changed the galaxy today. We made it more dangerous for empires and safer for everyone else. History will judge whether that was right or wrong. But we did what we had to do. We protected our home, we protected our species, and we made sure that Earth will never be seen as an easy target again. The crew listened in silence, and Jihoon could see the weight of what they'd done settling on their shoulders. They had won, but the cost would haunt them forever. Get some rest, Jihoon said finally. We'll deal with the politics later. Right now, we've earned some peace. As the crew dispersed, Jihoon remained at the window looking at Earth. Somewhere down there, people were celebrating. They didn't know yet what it had cost, what humanity had unleashed on the galaxy. They just knew they were alive. Mirai stayed with him. Do you think Thrakenor was right? Did we make the universe more dangerous? Maybe, Jihoon admitted. But it was already dangerous.